Everyone, welcome, and boy, this turned out to be a pretty good evening, hasn't it? For this time of year, and some of the dire weather forecasts we had. Um, so, this is going to be a fun evening in which we, of course, we're here to rename the farm after Stu. But we will also have some remembrances, some speakers about Stu's influence, not only here at the college, but also Stu's influence on breaking things. Stu liked to break things. All right. Now, about Stu's impact on CSAs and sustainable agriculture and regional and rural development all across the state. So in case some of you don't know who I am, and that's probably most of you, I'm Dr. Jay Antle. I'm the Executive Director of the college's Center for Sustainability. And let me lay out roughly the schedule of events, and I'll make a few comments, and then we'll move things along. Also, there are restrooms. Some of you have seen the porta potties. Those are actually not intended for us, but you can use them if you're feeling lucky. We also have new restrooms inside the warehouse, which you can all go in that door there and go to your left, and they're brand new. And so you might be the first user of those restrooms. So the schedule will be, we'll do the sign reveal here shortly. Then we'll have a few speakers talking about Stu's impact on, again, the college and sustainable agriculture all across the state. And then there'll be time to go have food over there at the tents next to the warehouse. And there'll be some informal farm tours if you'd like to see the kind of work that we do here with our sustainable agriculture program here at Johnson County Community College. First of all, a few thank yous. Let's see, Claire, where are you? There. Okay, raise your hand. So Claire Zimmerman is our Open Petal Farm. She's the farm manager, and she is the one most responsible for organizing this event. Michael Ray is over there. Raise your hand. Michael helped out as well and is responsible for the changes in the sign, which you'll see here shortly. Dr. Deb Williams, raise your hand. She submitted the application, which went through the college processes to get the farm renamed. I see Kate Allen is here somewhere. Yeah, Kate's committee helped approve it. And then we have at least one member of our board of trustees, Jeff Holton back there, if you want to raise your hand, who ultimately approved this. And what's great about this is it just shows how the impact of Stu on this campus, that this approval process took a month, 3 weeks, and nobody had to give $1 million. The impact of Stu Schafer. So I'll just say a little bit about Open Petal Farm. This is where the Sustainable Agriculture Program here at the college is based. It is where the practicum takes place. And it moved here after Stu and some folks in hospitality management and entrepreneurship first started the Sustainable Ag Program. And it was originally being held at the K-State Olathe Extension Farm here. Not K-State, I'm sorry, the K-State Extension Office, there's a difference here. And they eventually had to tell us to go someplace else. And thankfully, Stu and I were able to convince President Terry Calloway at the time that it was time to move up a soccer field, we used to be here, and plant a farm. And to me, that is one of the accomplishments that I'm perhaps the most proud of, being the director of Center for Sustainability, is turning a soccer field into a place now where we grow vegetables and teach folks how to do that kind of stuff. Some of you might know, some of you might remember Mike Ryan, who was our first farm manager. We've had a lot of folks here, a lot of students over the years. But I got to know Stu when I was just a history prof, and he was just a sociology professor. And he had a great impact on the sociology program, and also he was the president of the Faculty Association at one point in time here on campus. And so he had a variety of impacts on this campus long before we actually got the Sustainable Ag Program up and running. And so Stu and I were friends even before this enterprise got going. He was a fierce advocate for sustainable agriculture and for this program. He was a friend, and he is very much missed. Today's renaming will commemorate Stu's commitment to students to sustainable agriculture, and it also reaffirms JCCC's commitment to this work. And there are some exciting things happening coming up that I want to mention very briefly. We're going to be putting solar panels out here to help power the warehouse, help power some of our charging stations over there for our own equipment here at the farm. And we're going to engage in a small-scale agrivoltaics operation to see how agriculture and small-scale solar can integrate and teach our students as to how all that works. And so we're going to be hopefully cutting edge on that. Those students who come here, we'll get to see what that looks like. And for those of you who don't know, we also have an event on August 21st called the Harvest Dinner, where we raise money for student scholarships for students who are in this program. So if you have any interest, look online, JCCC Harvest Dinner, and buy some tickets. So with all of that said, I think it's getting time to have the next part of our presentation. And so I'm going to have Claire Zimmerman up here, and we're now going to do something really cool.
Jay, and again, thank you all so much for making it tonight, to be here for the special dedication to Stu, a beloved mentor, teacher, colleague, and friend to us all here. Not think that was going to happen so fast, I apologize. So, it is now Michael and I's privilege to present to you the Stu Schafer Open Petal Farm. Got it. It's my hope that tonight we can all celebrate the impact that this farm Stu has built has had not only for our students who participate in the Sustainable Agriculture Program, but also within our broader community. Open Petal Farm has served as a community and learning place for thousands of people over the years. With Stu's guidance and leadership, we have hosted workshops, made partnerships, led tours, and made a name for ourselves as an accessible and valuable place to begin your sustainable farming and food system education. We have also fed a lot of people some really excellent food over the years. Stu came up with the name Open Petal Farm in 2015, a tribute to both JCCC's mission and to the possibilities that lie ahead for our students. The farm has served its namesake well. We have been farming the burbs with the most diverse, enthusiastic, and passionate students one could have the privilege of working with. Over the years, I've watched students build confidence, collaboration skills, work ethic, grit, and high tunnels too. Students' eyes are opened to the extensiveness of our food systems and the ways agriculture touches everybody's life. Our students have gone on into our community and beyond to be serious change makers, advocates, farmers, and entrepreneurs. I know Stu is immensely proud of the work, skills, curiosity, and knowledge our students possessed after getting their hands dirty at Open Petal. For me, Stu is a profound mentor and has made me so proud to be a farmer and a Kansan. There's not a student who leaves here that won't appreciate our tall grass prairies, CSAs, our strong history in agriculture, and a deep connection to the food and farms that grow in order to create resilient and healthy places for us all. Looking forward, we eagerly await the new students who will come to us, seeking understanding and skills to help propel them into their next stages of life. We remain open to the ideas, questions, opportunities, and challenges that surely lie ahead. And we will face them with the resiliency and hope that Stu planted here at this farm upon its creation. I thank Stu for instilling in me a fire that will not die and a dedication to serving and bettering our communities. I'm honored to pass that passion Stu gave me on to our students. Again, thank you all for being here to memorialize Stu with us all and to help propel the next chapter of Stu's legacy forward. It is truly an honor to be here with all of you tonight. So please now let me turn our dedication over to our speakers, starting with Dr. Deborah Williams, who would like to share their memories, stories, and tributes to Stu.
It is absolutely an honor to be here, and I think Stu would be very proud to see all of the familiar faces to him and many of us with the joint work that everyone has done to make this world a much better place. So, I had a way of greeting Stu, and some of you here may have heard me say this to him. I would say, Stu! So, I'll start off with that. He was the friend before whom you could speak aloud, unabridged, unfiltered, authentically. I did that a time or two. He would always listen attentively and respond with the sage-like advice that was simply Stu's way of being. He was a colleague with whom one could passionately disagree, but find common ground eventually, and seal it with a handshake or a hug, and often both. But I remember Stu most fondly as a colleague with whom on many, many things we passionately agreed, and for those many points where our interests aligned and intersected. Naturally, our paths crossed frequently as faculty association members, as past union presidents, or on college-wide committees, on interdisciplinary curriculum initiatives, as lead or co-lead contract negotiators, at Friday Barley's happy hours, and as proponents in the early days, and ever since, of sustainability and sustainable agriculture. But especially as advocates for Indigenous peoples, we were very aligned on this topic. And like in our union advocacy efforts, we both adopted the brand of advocacy that not only placed us behind someone, but beside, and when needed, in front of those issues and people for whom we were advocating. The truth is, our paths crossed even more frequently because I would seek Stu out. To me, Stu was a mentor, a friend, and a sage. I would invite his advice, and believe it or not, sometimes I would take it. We talked about topics ranging from curriculum development, collective bargaining strategies, Indigenous studies, environmental science, sustainability, to life choices, personal and professional disappointments or challenges. Stu was the founder of this open Petal farm back in the early days of our awesome sustainability initiative. His vision was clear for the need for a campus farm, and he helped found the Sustainable Agriculture Program that today continues to enjoy a steady success that Stu would be deeply proud of, as am I. For more than a decade of his last years of his career, Sustainable Ag represented the bulk of Stu's teaching, and I imagine a special portion of his heart. About 6 years ago, when he was retiring and I was phasing in, as chair of the newly merged Environmental Science Sustainable Agriculture Department, we worked out an arrangement at Stu's insistence, really, where he would continue to mentor SAG students, Sustainable Ag students, and, as importantly, Stu mentored me. This was a time in my career that I will always cherish, as I will these years that I've worked together with many of you to help build and grow the work that Stu started with the JCCC Sustainable Agriculture Program and the now Stu Schafer Open Petal Farm. I'll close by saying that upon hearing of the news of Stu's passing, the way to honor him and his legacy seemed immediately obvious to me. Rename the farm. So a small group of us went to work to make that happen, and the request sailed smoothly through the approval steps because of the deep and abiding respect that people had for him and his life's work. The Stu Schafer Open Petal Farm has a nice ring, don't you think? Importantly, it both honors and memorializes his contributions for all that knew him, but also for those who did not know him, perhaps provides inspiration to get to know Stu and his legacy. So, Stu, if you're listening, thank you. I miss you, appreciate you, and I'm thankful for everything you contributed to making JCCC a better place, for making students' learning experiences and faculty lives richer, for knowing you, and thank you for being a truly wonderful colleague and friend.
We would like to invite Kevin Schafer forward to speak.
I'm Kevin, I'm Stu's older brother. You know, most of us go through life doing the best we can with what we got, and most of that is good enough. Sometimes it's even better. To Stu, better was never good enough. If he chose to do something, he had to do it right and be the best at doing it. And while he sought perfection, he avoided basking in self-devotion. He believed that we are all just pieces of this puzzle called life, and no one piece has any significance without all the others. As a visionary, he knew that to make tomorrow better than today, you must first ensure that tomorrow comes. Tonight's dedication ceremony is very special recognition of Stu's hard work and his personal dedication to making the world a better place for all of us. On behalf of our entire family, thank you for this honor. I could just see Stu beaming with pride.
May I invite Michael Lee forward?
Thank you all for being here, and special thanks to JCCC for putting this together. I don't think it's real common, but for my entire life, my dad worked here at this one institution. And this place feels like home to me in many ways. When I was young, I would come sit in classes with my dad and listen to his lectures. And I even had the privilege of teaching here for a brief stint along with him right before his retirement. Growing up, the son of a sociologist wasn't easy, but you understand. I'm grateful that I had that challenge. I'm similarly grateful that I was raised where and how I was. While sociology may have been the primary aspect of my father's career, sustainable agriculture was really his passion. And the program here at the college was very important to him, as was growing crops on his farm north of Lawrence, where I live now. So much so that I asked him before he passed, if when he meets new people, if people were to ask him, like, what did he do for a living? What did he do with his life? And he would just tell them that he was a farmer, right? This was his most important identity. That was something I learned in the sociology class, right? That we all have various identities. We're one way at home, another way at work, another way with our friends. Those are all our identities. And what's most important comes to the front. Growing food was really important to my dad as well, and that's obvious why. Without farmers farming, there's no food. When I was young, I would help my dad on the farm, planting, weeding, watering, harvesting, and I recall telling him that when I grew up, I would grow a garden when I had children because I thought that it was a good influence. And I suppose that time has come now. I have a 6-year-old daughter. This is October, and now it's time for me to become a farmer and be a good influence the way he was. Would you like to say something? Go ahead. It's okay. Go ahead. October and my father really like to eat popcorn together, and so I think that that's something we'll grow. Yeah? Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Mary Fund, who would like to invite you forward?
I've lucked out, I think. The skid loader has gone home for a beer or something. I'm Mary Fund. I worked at the Kansas Rural Center for about 40 years. And so it was, KRC was it's the oldest sustainable agriculture and sustainable local and regional food system organization in the state. So it was not an accident or odd that Stu and the Rural Center's paths would cross at some point. First, I want to thank Patty and Mira and Michael and the family for generously sharing Stu with us, because he was a board member, and from other boards I've been on, I know how it can go, but the Rural Center board has always been an active, engaged board. You don't just get your name on a letterhead and come to the meetings and listen to the staff make reports, although there was plenty of that. He was engaged, and you had to be engaged. And from the beginning, he found himself, it was a 20 to 24 member board, which is large by any standards. And most of the work gets done by the staff and a small executive committee. And from the first time that he was on the board, he he was part of that committee, and he served in every role, every major decision that we made over about, he was there not quite a decade. He was not a passive person on the board. He was not the most vocal. He was not the most, the loudest or the most argumentative. He was a gentle, thoughtful soul and very engaged. Others have said Stu knew how to listen and be a good sounding board. And so when he spoke, you listened. I know he helped me through a lot of decisions and tough times. There's always fundraising problems, as everybody in a university setting knows. But Stu was a really big influence on other board members and on the staff. In our youth, my husband and I used to talk about theory and practice. When we were sitting around talking about where we wanted to go, what we wanted to do with our lives, and how we wanted to live them. Theory and practice, putting into action the work for the kind of world we wanted to see. Stu was one of the people that we most respected for doing just that. Living a humble life whose values and action are consistent. His commitment to causes, to social movements, to issues, clearly from what others have said here at the university and other times of his life, is pretty clear. We need more people like Stu, and I'm so glad that he was a teacher and that he found a home here at JCCC to put all of that into action. We need more people like Stu who had a grasp of the bigger picture, the social and economic theory, philosophy, and history behind the everyday realities. I know we're losing ground in the social sciences. I don't know what it's like here at the college, but I've spoken to other sociologists at other universities, and I know that they're losing ground. And I know that that's really the work that they do in the social sciences is what's going to help us figure out the future. So we need more of that, not less. I know I'm not the only one who enjoyed conversations with Stu on theory and history and philosophy. He was one of maybe a couple of people on our board that I could reference Marx's metabolic rift, and his eyes would light up and he'd laugh and we'd be off on a long conversation. Always coming back to the practical realities of not only how to farm, raise food, or what kind of business and infrastructure was needed for a local and regional food system, knowing it was based on why we do so and how it fits into that big picture of serving humanity and the planet. I recently reread an essay on gardening as resistance, Notes on Building Paradise. And the question they asked was, can you plant a garden to stop a war? It depends on how you think about time. It depends what you think a seed does if tossed onto fertile ground. I thought Stu would like that. And to paraphrase a little more from that essay, what redeems and consecrates our finite human lives and our limited powers, within those parameters, maybe there's space enough and spirit enough to resist what is poisonous to the ideological soil we call culture, and persist in planting something lush and beautiful. That we might never see it bloom might just be okay. To have planted the seeds is satisfaction enough worth living for. Stu clearly planted a lot of seeds, not only here at JCC, but with all the other people that he knew. So I thank you once again for letting me let you know what he meant to the Kansas Rural Center. Thank you.
Mary. We'll invite Tom Bowler up.
Hi, I'm Tom Buller. I'm really honored to share a few thoughts and memories here today. In the spring of 2006, I met Stu for the first time through the Rolling Prairie Farmers Alliance. I met him just over there behind the warehouse in front of the greenhouse. From then on, every Wednesday, spring, summer, and fall through the next 8 years, I would pull up with a vehicle full of produce from Lawrence, deliver some here, pick up some more from Stu, and head off to Rolling Prairie's other KC site. The other site moved around a lot in those years, but this site was constant, as was Stu. I started by delivering produce from Mark Lumpy and Bob Leminska, and over the years added produce from my own farm. Stu and I would commiserate about the weather as farmers do. I'd ask questions about things that were happening around the farm, and Stu would share his knowledge and insights gained from years of experience. So I never had Stu as a formal teacher, but he certainly taught me a lot about being a farmer. One thing that I'll always appreciate about Stu is he had a calm presence, which really was appreciated as the weather got hotter. It seemed like in July, when the temps were routinely in the hundreds, every year, inevitably, there would be conflict amongst the farmers in Rolling Prairie. Someone didn't get to sell enough of their tomatoes, or some product count at a site was short. From my vantage in all of those discussions, Stu always seemed to be the one who was cool, calm, and collected, while the rest of us were overheated, both literally and figuratively. Stu was a calm voice of reason to help the rest of us sort things out, and that was always appreciated. After I was no longer a member of Rolling Prairie, I had several more chances to interact with Stu's in different ways, with Stu as a thinker of sustainable agriculture. A couple of Stu's classes visited my farm, and in 2015, when I started working at the Kansas Rural Center, I co-hosted a workshop here to build a movable high tunnel, that one right over there. Our plans didn't work out. Greg Garbos and I came in to do this one-day workshop, and we were gonna build the thing, and the ground wasn't right for the movable tracks of the high tunnel, so we spent most of the day scratching our head and building some hoops. And at the end of that day, we left Stu and his students with a big pile of metal. Coming back later, it was a joy to see he had put that together and that the high tunnel was complete and operational. And it just struck me as I was putting these thoughts together, like, wow, maybe I should have come back and helped him. But I didn't. He figured it out on his own. Years later, I've been able to collaborate with Stu on several projects when I worked at Extension, and then when I started back at the Kansas Rural Center in 2021, he was helping to coordinate a project on alternative farm transition models. That project didn't really go well as planned. I was just starting and thoroughly overwhelmed in my role, and Stu had some health setbacks at the time. Nonetheless, I checked in with him. He provided useful insight and feedback, as some of the other people have shared. He was always a wealth of information. So for me, so much of my relationship with Stu was really around this place here, picking up and dropping off produce over there, working on the high tunnel, touring this farm. So this is a place I will always associate with his presence, even though I was never a student at Johnson County Community College. So it seems so right to me that this farm is named in his honor.
All right, and to introduce our final speaker, we have Paul Johnson.
It's probably good to be the last speaker, and so when I'm done, food can start flowing, which I'm sure will just be tremendous. My name is Paul Johnson. I was a founding member of the Rolling Prairie Farmers Alliance with some compatriots here, Dan Agengast and Jerry Jost, to put the grant together, and Dan moving to Lawrence and bringing together Bob Leminska and Mark Lumpy and a number of very seasoned growers to actually, I think we've become the oldest multi-farm CSA in the Midwest and possibly in the country at this point. It was indeed an honor and a privilege to have known Stu, and I learned so much from him on sustainable agriculture. he had quite a circle of friends, as you can see tonight, and all of his acquaintance and family, students and colleagues. I wouldn't say that I was in that inner circle, but I felt like we were friends. And we had a lot in common. We both lived in southern Jefferson County, about 3 miles apart, and it was kind of the developing of organic market gardening agriculture in Jefferson County, along with the great work of Bob and Joy Leminska and Avery. And when Stu joined Rolling Prairie a few years later, I mean, that was a perfect fit, because we could share raising food together, taking it to various sites. It was, and having JCC as one of our drop-off points to be able to sell food on a multi-decade level. Stu was always helpful. I mean, he was indeed very helpful. He had very productive trucks for some of us. I lived on 40 acres, and my 2006 Honda Civic left a lot to be desired to move certain items. So Stu and I would get together on occasion, and we would coordinate scrap metal runs to Topeka and Lawrence, and a time to chat and discuss. And I mean, I cherish the times that we had together. He was even kind enough to help find a beekeeper for my farm and JCC folks can help me with the name, but I thought he taught here with Stu for a period of time. But and probably one of the special events that Stu and I did together was a few months after Bob Leminska had a very serious stroke, and Stu and I decided to go together and go over to Bob's house and escort him to Lawrence for an afternoon of fiddling and picking in South Park, and then we shared a meal that evening. It's something I'll always remember. That. So as I said, I'm a policy analyst for the Rural Center, and I write a weekly policy watch for the Rural Center, League of Women Voters, and Kansas Farmers Union, and Audubon, and 6 or 7 groups. But so I can't give up this opportunity to talk a couple policy issues. One, I think, is we really need to treat food as medicine. It is by far the most important drugs that we take every day is our diet. And I really think, I don't think we should hold our breath that the federal government's going to come through with extra money, particularly for sustainable organic farms. And obviously under the Trump administration, he's probably never heard of it. But I think what we need to do is develop courses to start taking a share of the money that people spend on prescription drugs in our country and move it into basic medicine. And that it's time that we get into a preventative mindset about medicine and about healthy living. I was working with the legislative research department about KU Med and what they actually do with nutrition at this point. And one of the things I learned was KU Med does not have a standalone nutrition course. They kind of integrate nutrition in through, all their other courses, but it's never a sole function. It's never given the priority that indeed it needs. I mean, I think the rural center, I think sustainable ag, regenerative farming, I think we have to find some other compatriots to work with. And I know the Maha movement has some real problems and etc. But they've identified ultra-processed foods as really a villain for our health. And if we can move in that direction to lessen that for our people, and they're also, against chemicals in our food, and they want to fight glyphosate and Roundup, and what Bayer wants to do to our food supply, and they're pretty upset that Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. have now backed off their campaign promises about chemicals in our food. So let me conclude with kind of a grander vision of what I would love to see. I think Kansas, and maybe JCC is a starting point for this, we need to develop a historic museum for the pioneers in sustainable, organic, and regenerative agriculture. And when that happens, and I'm sure that it will, Stu needs to be in that first class of pioneers to improve farming in the state of Kansas. Thank you.
All right, so thank you all very much. I don't have a formal transition from here over to the food, but I do want to thank the Rolling Prairie farmers who donated produce to help supply the appetizers that we'll be having tonight. A lot of the food came from this farm as well. Thank you all again so much for being here. Please do sign the guest book that Stu's family has brought for you all to sign on a table with the sunflowers over by the food. And please, if you have questions about the farm, come talk to me, come talk to Michael, come talk to Rick, who was the farm manager before me. Feel free to walk around. Obviously, nothing is off limits. We would love to for you all to see the permaculture garden, a food forest that we are starting in partnership with the Johnson County Extension Master Gardeners and Master Naturalists, which is a very exciting program for us. We're doing a lot of really cool things here. Stu's at the heart of all of it. I would really love for us to celebrate that and share stories tonight and just be together. So thank you all so much. It really means a lot for you all to be here.